In the two previous videos, we've seen two crucial moments of our religious life. First of all, testify for your understanding that God is different, and for the fact that you cannot know God. Then there is the second moment where you testify for your understanding, as far as you can, whom you cannot understand. Who is God? There is, of course, the fact, first, that you cannot understand what is the divine essence, what God is. That's why you go to a sacred place. And in the sacred place, once you're there, you're at home with God, in God's home, if you like, a place that represents God's home. There you confirm by your adoration not just that you cannot know God, but whom you do not know. It's like the public realization that it's about the divine essence. What is God? And the fact that you can both recognize that God is very different and that God has an essence for himself, a divine nature, a divine essence. He is who he is in eternity. The fact that you can acknowledge that too, that gives you the dignity of the religious person. Now, we have to make a third step, which, if you like, completes your visit to the sacred place. You go there to show that God is different, that you cannot know him. When you're there, you adore to show whom you do not know. The Lord. And the third step, of course, is that you want to know God. You have to show in some way from your side that you want to know God, that you want to see his face. So in order to make a gesture towards God, so that God can take you seriously, you offer something. You offer him a sacrifice, something of your life, something of your possessions. You want to get into contact with God and to give him a sign, to call him, if you like. You offer something of yourself, a possession, something that is very precious to you. Knowing that it is a symbol, it is like a symbolic gesture, because everything you have has been given by God. Even if you've worked for it, you didn't create it. Everything we offer to God that we have earned in our lives, it has been created first of all by God. And to really answer to this act of creation of the omnipotent God, we are totally incapable. We can never adequately answer to the act of creation. We can never compensate our own creation. It's not at all, it's too vertical. In exchange for being, we would have to not be. Something like that. And that's why, for man, it has always been the question, can I sacrifice my existence in this world as a thanksgiving, as a sign of respect for the Almighty Creator? Or do I have to sacrifice other human beings? This is the question of human sacrifice and even of human suicide. What is the adequate answer to the act of creation? The act of creation of God, by God. Because for some, you would conclude that the act of creation is so radical that you would have to kill yourself or maybe kill others, which is a bit absurd because it would also mean destroying the act of creation of God. Killing for the sake of answering the gift of life. That's very strange. And you see that human sacrifices have always played a role in the history of man. There's always something wrong with the human search for the supreme religious act. Human sacrifice has always played a role, human suicide has always been there. Whether it was in India, where widows of wealthy men used to throw themselves into the fire of the cremation of their husband. There's something religious in war always. We know about the games in Rome, the combats between gladiators, which actually started as a religious practice. It was a funeral ritual. We also know from the same time, for the same age, in Northern Africa and in the Middle East, the sacrifice of kids, of young children, of babies was part of religious rituals. So the human sacrifice has always played an important role in the history of man trying to find the perfect, supreme, ultimate religious act. And we can see it even in our own times. Just investigate in our modern society where you see human sacrifice with a ideological or religious motivation. Those are expressions of religion which are false. They are contradictory, because by destroying life you can in no way pay respect to the giver of life. So when we offer something, when we sacrifice something in church or by lighting a candle or giving money, whatever the religion the sacrifice takes place in, it always has a symbolic meaning. As a sacrifice always means a gesture. It's always a gesture with a meaning showing to God that our retribution, our thanksgiving will always be inadequate to what God has given. That's why it's a symbol. A sacrifice has always something incomplete and unfinished. It always ends with a symbolic meaning, not totally real, because we cannot give an adequate answer for our own existence, and not even for the life we receive in this world. But we have to offer a sacrifice. It's the third step in our religious practice. We have to recognize that God is totally different from us and that we cannot know Him in a human way. Then we must acknowledge that we do understand that He has a divine essence which is above everything else, that God exists in a divine solitude eternally, but He has a divine essence. He is who He is. And then the third step, the first moment of our religious life is to show that we want to know God. We want to see His face. We want to understand His essence. And we want to do His will because He has created us. And He has created us with an intention that He sees in eternal light. Can we step in some way or another into this divine eternal light in a way that's real, in a way where we have become what corresponds to what God wanted us to become? And that's to show that we want that, we offer a sacrifice.